Joining us now, Sidney Powell. She's the author of the best-selling, or should be best-selling, book of all time. She's a former federal prosecutor licensed to lie. How do you buy the book? Now don't go to Amazon. They got too much money. They're too big. Go to licensedtolie.com. Licensedtolie.com is right there. Wow. No better person to get on today to break all this Kavanaugh stuff down for us than former prosecutor and author of the book License to Lie, Sidney Powell. Sidney, great to have you.
Thank you, John. Always good to be with you.
Okay, we got a lot to talk about, short period of time, so we got to get right to it. Let's start with the questioner that Chuck Grassley has hired. He wouldn't tell anybody, but then, of course, it leaked out. Everybody Democrats went crazy. Who is it? Who is it? So Grassley announced last night late that he's hired Arizona prosecutor Rachel Mitchell to question Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford. Now, she has a very sterling record, we understand. I looked into it. She's an experienced career sex crimes prosecutor. She'll be doing the questioning. What do you think of that move, Sidney Powell?
I think it was a brilliant move. It's exactly what should happen. As somebody sensitive to all the issues that surround those difficult situations, it makes eminent sense. And I think it's hysterical that the Democrats are so upset about it, because last few days they were upset about the prospect of all the men questioning her. Of course, I think that's really the optics they wanted, 11 older white males questioning her about delicate issues. But I'm glad Senator Grassley had the foresight to hire a female expert in the subject area.
Now,
it is
as I
heavily
understand
nuanced and a difficult area to question about.
She'll be questioning both Dr. Ford and Kavanaugh, right?
Yes, that's my understanding. I still think, however, the hearing will not happen.
Really?
I don't think she's going to appear to testify, because she'll have to do it under oath, and she risks perjury prosecution since absolutely nobody supports her story, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it's refuted by Kavanaugh's calendar entries. And there are a lot of things that she'd be facing that I really don't think she ever wanted to face. They really didn't accept it the other day. Everybody came out and said, they finally accepted the terms of the Senate. Well, that's not true. They did a very conditional acceptance, and that's not an acceptance at all. So they've always had a built-in escalator down for her to back down from it.
So, Sidney Powell, you're the second person in 2 days that said she's not going to testify. We had Corey Lewandowski on yesterday who was convinced she wouldn't testify for the same reasons. And you're right. She said her lawyers have said, her testimony on Thursday is conditional upon A, B, C, D, E, F. So they can come back, I guess, tonight, because she's scheduled for tomorrow at 10 a.m., I believe. I think that's on the schedule.
Yep.
So she can come back tonight and say, you know what? We just couldn't negotiate a favorable plan, or a plan that we think is fair. And Chuck Grassley bullied us, and all the men bullied us, and they're a bunch of bullies. So we're out.
Right.
And
all they really wanted was the smear and the taint to follow him as much as possible, and to disrupt the process and to push it off as long as they could. I mean, I strongly urge Senator Grassley to go ahead with the hearing on Monday. I mean, I think it should have all been shut down Monday. I mean, you know jolly well that if something had really happened to her and she was going to speak out about it, she'd have been there Monday morning with bells on to lay it out.
Yeah, so instead they stalled till Thursday. So if she doesn't come, and we would find that out sometime tonight, right? Late. I mean, she's either coming or not. She either gets on a plane or not.
We may not find out till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I bet they play it to the very end.
She just doesn't show.
Yeah. In fact, Feinstein said last night she had no way of knowing if she was going to appear.
So then if Dr. Ford doesn't appear, does Kavanaugh still go through his testimony as scheduled?
That's up to all of them. He certainly could. I imagine he wants to make a record of it, although he did that on TV the other night with Martha McCallum. But he wouldn't have to.
I think now he has to.
They could cancel the whole hearing and just schedule the vote earlier.
I think he has to testify. He has to now do it because he said on television with Martha McCallum over and over again, he said that he wanted his day to be able to defend himself for these allegations. And if, Sidney, as you say, this whole thing was done to just taint him, then I would think that he would want the opportunity to go through the process.
I'm sure he does. I just don't know if the Senate would just cancel the hearing.
Right.
Hopefully not, because he does want to go officially on the record under oath and state his side of the situation, which won't take him very long since he doesn't know anything about it.
I know. Well, the bottom line is right here. The bottom line now is that if Dr. Ford testifies, they're going to have the vote in the Judiciary Committee on Friday. They'll have that either way. I guess the only Republican that is talked about as being on the fence who hasn't said one way or the other what he's going to do is Jeff Flake. I couldn't imagine if she doesn't show up that Flake would vote no. I mean, vote no based on what? Not showing up? So that, to me, if she doesn't show up, it guarantees that he'll probably get confirmed on Monday, right? They'll have the Judiciary Committee vote on Friday. Mitch McConnell will bring it to the floor Monday. He'll win, and that'll be the end of it.
I'm not sure they can do it as early as Monday. I do not know all the rules of the Senate, but on somewhere yesterday I saw a timeline of things that had to happen, and it pushed the vote to Wednesday, I think, is the earliest they could do it. That's why the Senate wanted to have the hearing this past Monday, was so he could get confirmed by the 1st of October, first Monday in October, which is when the court session resumes. And from my understanding of whatever their rules and procedures are, since the hearing was pushed to Thursday, it can't happen that fast. That was the whole thing about her delaying until Thursday. It's ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. I've never seen people bend over backwards like this to accommodate somebody who wanted to give their story, and story it is.
We're with Sidney Powell. She's the author of one of the best books ever written on the U.S. justice system called License to Lie. You need to buy it. It's a great read. You can buy it by going to Amazon, or the best thing to do is just go to her website, licensetolie.com. You can buy it right there, licensetolie.com. Sidney Powell, former federal prosecutor. So let's get to Debbie Ramirez. So Ramirez says that in Yale, 18 years old, Judge Kavanaugh was at a party, exposed himself to me, but I was drunk and I didn't remember it. But then I spent a week with my lawyer, and now I remember it after talking to my lawyer for 6 straight days. By the way, here are 6 witnesses that have been there. You can corroborate it with them. The New York Times and the New Yorker went 0 for 6. Nobody corroborated. In fact, they said the opposite. Wasn't there, never heard of it. In fact, her best friend, Debbie Ramirez's best friend, said she never mentioned it. Plus, she was drunk. So the New York Times, which was absolutely drooling over the story, they wanted so bad to put it on headline, A1, second accuser. I mean, they were just falling all over themselves with glee. Couldn't run the story because they were afraid they'd get sued because the corroborating witnesses all said, no, it didn't happen. So the Times said, yeah, we can't run this.
There were none. And Ramirez wasn't even sure it was him when she came out with this absolutely scurrilous, false allegation. I mean, we're watching the Democratic Party dissembling and deconstructing in front of our eyes. It's all unprecedented, just absolutely appalling. And I hope that people realize now how absolutely desperate they are for power and how malevolent they are in their efforts to obtain it. It's just sickening. I said on Lou Dobbs the other night, the Democrats have the donkey as their symbol for a reason, and what we've been dealing with is the southbound end of the northbound donkey.
The Ramirez thing is something else. Now, let's get, Sidney Powell, let's get to Michael Avenatti. He says he's got another witness. He's going to release that, I guess, tonight. All this evidence, I don't know if he's got videos or tapes or whatever he found. But so far, nothing. He's got nothing, right?
Yep.
How do you know that?
Well, yesterday he shut down his Twitter feed and backed out of the whole thing. At least that's the last I saw.
So,
and even Jeff Toobin was criticizing him. I mean, Avenatti is just there's. I can't even use a word on air that describes Avenatti.
Well, we played that clip earlier. Jeff Toobin, who is a super anti-Trump liberal on CNN, blasted him and said it was one of the most irresponsible things he's ever seen. But that's kind of what Avenatti does. I mean, he's an ambulance chaser, etc. All right, so make a prediction. You predict that Dr. Ford does not show tomorrow.
Exactly. And Kavanaugh testifies. The Democrats will do everything they can to humiliate him if they're allowed to ask questions. Hopefully they won't be. And we will proceed onward, and he will be confirmed. And I do have one thing I'd like for your listeners to know about my book. I've got a new special second edition coming out any day now. They can pre-order it wherever books are sold. I found a distributor, so Barnes & Noble will have it. Everybody should be able to have it, and the thing to do is to pre-order it now to make sure you get one of this printing.
Great job. Great job. So pre-order it. Go to license2lie.com, or your favorite bookstore, or Amazon. Get an updated copy. Got to do it. Great read, and I can't wait to get that so I can read the update. We're with Sidney Powell, former federal prosecutor and the author of the book, License to Lie, outlining the abuses in your federal Department of Justice and the whole prosecutorial area. If you read this, you're going to have a very different view of the whole thing like I do, but you have to read it to get there. Sidney Powell, let's get to Bill Cosby. Sentenced yesterday, 3 years. I just had Joe Morrissey on, who was really critical of the whole process. Didn't make a judgment on Cosby's guilt or innocence, but he said that there was a hung jury, and the judge in the first trial didn't let evidence come in from the other women. In the second trial, he did, and then now he's convicted, and he thought it was going to get appealed and overturned. What say you?
It will certainly be appealed. I don't know enough about the Court of Appeals where it was tried to comment on whether it will be overturned or not. It could be on the admissibility of the evidence that was excluded the first time, although I tend to doubt it. And it's just one of the saddest and most disappointing episodes that I can think of in a while, because Bill Cosby was so idolized as a good family man and everything from the Bill Cosby show that so many of us enjoyed for a long time, and to have to learn that this is the kind of person he was, it's an obvious serious illness. Mm-hmm. I think the sentence was fair given his age.
Right.
I mean, that alone, he could die in prison just from even the shorter end of the sentence range he was given. It makes me sick.
Well, it's a sad day for Bill Cosby and also for his victims. I mean, you look at all the number of victims he had, and I thought what the judge said yesterday was pretty riveting. He said, basically you're a sexual predator and a menace to society. And then I guess it was the prosecutor who said, look, our job is to protect good people from bad people. I thought it was interesting the way he said that. Is pretty simple, but I'm like, okay, I get that, right? I mean, it's.
And he's exactly right. I mean, something had to be done about it. The psychologist even got on the stand and said he will do it again.
Yeah, he will do it again. Something up there. All right, Sidney Powell, great to have you with us. Always enjoy you being on. Thank you for your perspective. I know you got to get up early for us because you're not in our time zone, and we really appreciate it. Sidney, thank you so much. Just one final observation from you, and then we'll take off. If Kavanaugh gets confirmed, you mentioned earlier the Democrats just wanted to taint him. What will that have anything to do with how he rules?
It won't have anything to do with how he rules. It's just a horrible, horrible smear tactic. And they've even said they're going to start efforts to impeach him. They're going to conduct their own investigation and try to impeach him after he is seated on the court. Well, that's not going to go anywhere. They need to find something constructive to do, like build habitat houses or something with all the spare time they're spending on creating marches and protests and resistance. They need to be doing something constructive for the country.
Unbelievable. How do you impeach a Supreme Court justice?
I have no idea.
Do you have any idea? I don't either. I'm not. I guess it would have to go through the Senate. You'd have to get, I guess, 2/3 or something. But it's got to be beyond that, because then anytime a new majority came in, they could impeach all of them that they didn't like. So I'm not sure how that works. But you're right. I mean, they should find something else to do. Kavanaugh is going to get confirmed. I think Ford does testify. I don't think there's any chance she doesn't show up now. I think the pressure is on her to come and testify, because if indeed they do want to taint him, the only way they can really taint him now is if she testifies and says he did all the stuff. And then they can taint him, even though I think he'll be confirmed anyway, because he'll combat it and say, I didn't do it, and there's no witnesses. And I think his story is going to be very compelling. But if she doesn't show up, well, what are you going to taint him with? Then it really looks like the whole thing was,
just the
I don't know, I hate to say fabricated, but
they've been casting all along.
Yeah, if she doesn't show, I really think it hurts the Democrats going into the midterm. So I think she has to show up. That's why I believe she will. I'm out of time for this segment. Sidney Powell, thanks for being with us. License to Like, a new edition coming out. Go to your favorite bookstore, B. Dalton, all that good stuff, Amazon, or license2lie.com. Sidney Powell, you're the best. Thanks for being with us.